I wasn't planning on recording this video on my motorcycle in Bethesda, Maryland, but I popped my clutch cable and I'm waiting for a tow truck, so I figured I'd take advantage of the time, the opportunity, and the sunlight. I want to talk to you about communicating in the interactive age, and what works and what doesn't. Very recently, Bono of U2 fame apologized to basically the entire world because the band had shoved their latest album into the iPhones and iClouds of every Apple owner in the world without anybody's permission. And in his apology, he explained that he was worried that the group's music wouldn't be heard, that it wouldn't break through the internet noise. Now, Bono could read a grocery list and be heard by the international media. And if he's concerned about breaking through the noise, you ought to be petrified. I've spent 20 years of my career helping organizations, helping individuals, helping corporations, helping universities tell their story. I was pretty darn good at it. But the world has changed, and I've spent the last 2 years developing with my partner, Megan McDonald, a proprietary system that actually helps people get their stories heard. And while it's part of the same continuum, it's far more important to get your story heard than it is to get your story told. I'll give you a couple of examples. On January 19th, 2012, just a few years ago, Kodak filed for bankruptcy protection. They basically went out of business after 124 years. That same month, Instagram, which was at the time about 14 months old, was negotiating to be bought by Facebook for $1 billion in cash and stock. The next day, on January 20th, 2012, Chris Dodd, former Senator Chris Dodd, head of the Motion Picture Association of America, is on Fox News frothing at the mouth because his signature legislation, SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act, was shot down basically by internet users. Now you need to understand, this was a legislative slam dunk. Chris Dodd was a very powerful former senator. His trade association was among the most powerful in the world. It had greased the skids. This legislation was going to pass until the internet found out about it. They didn't like it, so they basically launched civil disobedience and shut down the system for 24 hours. The next day, the bill was pulled. Dodd went nuts. Now, as you can imagine, a lot of people over 40, especially those in the trade association game and the foundation game here in Washington, D.C., are a little nervous about what's transpiring. They're seeing kids making millions of dollars for selling apps that they don't even understand. They're seeing there's a video of a cat stuck in a hamster ball that's gotten more hits than anything they'll ever do, anything they've ever done, all of it cumulatively. And many of these people are worried that their communication strategies, their membership development strategies, their meetings and convention strategies are slowly, and sometimes not so slowly, eroding month after month. Fewer people are listening, fewer people are attending, fewer people are signing up, fewer people are donating. The reason is they're not being heard. They're not being heard because they're not communicating. Well, yeah, that's one problem, but they're also not being heard because we're in a communication universe that U2's Bono is afraid he's not being heard. But there is a way around this. Let's put it this way. To be a success in the 20th century was to be a star. You shined brightly from afar. You did not take in information, you just delivered it. To be a success in the 21st century, in the interactive age, is to be a quasar. In the center of every quasar, there's a black hole. This black hole sucks in matter and energy and light, and it explodes out the brightest light, more light than any known star in the universe. Quasars works because it's multi-directional, two-directional. Just like communication in the 21st century works because it's a dialogue, it's no longer a monologue. Today, the person with the biggest megaphone is not the one who's heard. It's the person who can resonate with the audience he or she is trying to reach. Quasar also happens to be a great acronym for this process that Megan and I developed that is guaranteed to help you get your story heard by the audiences you care about. Quasar stands for Quest, Audience, Stories, Action, and Review. Now, Quest is different than a mission. A mission, you know that mission statement in your break room right above the Xerox? Yeah, that's something that someone else told you to do, whether it was your boss or your board or whatever. A quest is a yearning from within, a desire from within to accomplish a goal that generally benefits society in some way, or certainly benefits the audience you're trying to reach. When you have a quest, you can reach audiences and communities that share that quest. When you reach these audiences, and you'll find they're not the people you might necessarily think they are, you'll have a connection with a new group of people whom you need to speak with. Well, how are you going to speak to them? In stories. You'll be able to develop stories based upon what you've learned from your audience about your shared quests and how they receive and give information. Howdy. When you have these stories, the one trick, the most important step really, that most trade associations, nonprofits, foundations in Washington, D.C. basically ignore is the action step. Traditionally, trade associations take a guns of Navarone approach to communications. We're going to hold a press conference a month from now. We're going to put out this quarterly magazine. We're going to put out our monthly newsletter. That's all well and good. I'm not saying you don't do it, but I'm saying no one's listening to it. Communications in the interactive age is constant. It's ever present. It's 24/7, 365, 10 decades, 100 years. I don't know. However you want to put it. It's nonstop. The 20th century communication model, which literally was he with the biggest megaphone wins, not only does not work in the interactive age, but it cuts against you. It's counterproductive. Constant communication means you have to be listening as much as, and frankly more than, you're talking. And there you go. And listening comes in a form, multifaceted form. You're not just connecting with the audiences you care about online and sharing platforms and sharing internet communities, but you're interacting in a way that is not dictatorial. It's not dictating to them. You're interacting in a way that reflects upon what they're saying, that reflects upon things that they care about. And as you're doing this and you're developing a relationship with these newfound friends, you can interject your perspective. That's the start of communication. Think about this. If you're a new kid in school, and you've got a burning desire to tell people you're the best trumpet player in your old school. Well, if you go running up into the band room and grab the first gaggle of kids and say, hey, did you know I was the best trumpet player back in what's its name, high school? They're going to reject you out of hand. In fact, they're probably going to beat the crap out of you. But if you approach a group in your band and you start to listen to the trumpet players and the percussion section and get to know a couple of the cute clarinet players, you'll find out what they react to, what they care about. And it may come to pass, in fact it certainly will, that one of them's going to say, you know, that guy, whatever your name is, I heard he was actually a great trumpet player. See, it's an interactive process. It's getting a little crowded around here. It's an interactive process that's predicated on not what you're trying to say, but what they need to hear.